the Jam and most of the remaining revival bands in 1982, it was obvious that if the mod revival was to survive, then a new musical style was needed. The scene went back underground and became much closer to their predecessors from the 60s. All-nighters, scooter clubs and amphetamines became a way of life, as the mods tried to ignore the harsh environment of the early 80s.
It wasn't until probably late 79, 1980 that people got into soul music, you know. For example, Secret Affair used to cover Going to a Go-Go, Smokey Robinson and things like that. So we were aware of it, but it wasn't until the end of kind of 1979 that people started listening and dancing to soul.
Well, a lot of the sounds of the other bands that were around at that time were whiter than us, I suppose. More of a conventional sort of rock R&B. They were good bands, but we felt that particular area was covered, and that we could separate ourselves a little musically from the bands around us by using this black soul influence.
It doesn't matter if people understand where their influences come. For example, The Who. You know, The Who are well known for stuff like My Generation and Can't Explain, which is definitely guitar rock. You know, that's not particularly soulful. But then, if you listen to the B-sides, they were doing covers of Derek Martin's Daddy Rolling Stone, which is it's a soul classic. And I don't think it matters if people understand where these influences came from. It's just the fact is they're gradually getting into it by whatever route, you know. It's a mind-expanding experience.
Like the Chords, I think I had like one mod in them, and you know, Chris was definitely a punk mod, I think. And they was just these bands that took the music they liked, and it was music we liked. And then after that, there was like floods of bands with names like the Lambrettas and the Stay Pressed, and I mean, subtlety was gone by then. This subtlety wasn't at work at all, was it?
The Chords were a band. They were a group. It's music. We're not fashion designers. We want to make music, and if people want to like us and put us in a mod bracket, then that's fine. That's great, because it was an audience who liked us. We didn't set out to appeal to those people, and I think ourselves and The Who were bands that were liked by mods as opposed to being mod bands.
Mod is a very broad church which embraces a variety of influences with an obsession for sharp clothes and 60s style.
The whole mod revival thing is a very exclusive club, if you like. I mean, I met people, as Gary did, who I still know today, only from dressing the same, if you like. I mean, if you saw another mod or a guy that was in a park or something, you'd go up and speak to him because it was so unusual to see someone like you. And that's, I think, that's what always stayed with me. And a lot of people were, they had lasting friendships.
You're talking about the mod era, and what you wore and where you went defined who you were.
I always felt like if you like the song, it doesn't matter if the person's wearing a tutu or he's wearing a parka.
Obviously we'd wear parkas, we would wear suits, we'd wear Target t-shirts, jeans. We wore what we wanted to wear rather than what we thought we had to wear.
I mean, I couldn't sort of afford to go to a tailor and get a suit sort of custom made. So it was a case of having to adapt one's school uniform.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of adapting school uniforms.
It was about working class aspirations and the whole concept of the tonic suit and the Ben Sherman or the British shirt. This was an opportunity for working class people to make a statement about their own self-belief and pride and all those kinds of elements, which I think are more social and cultural, which is what a lot of our song lyrics were about.
I mean, I remember going to sort of jumble sounds and sort of finding like a 3-button thin lapel sort of suit, and it was it was like Eureka, it was, and also I love that. I mean, I love kind of sort of vintage clothes anyway. I mean, there's something that's even more special about them. There's a bit of kind of history to them. I just wish they could talk to them.
It's like a bit of a contradiction, and like if you're saying clothes are so important, yet all you could get them at was jumble sounds. It's like it's hardly like the top flight fashion, is it? The old thrift shops and second-hand dead suits.
But then again, I mean, all of the kids that I knew that were into it, everybody was kind of sort of working class, and you didn't really have, the money to sort of, to go down to Carnaby Street, and get sort of like clothes made. I mean, I certainly couldn't afford it.
us as mods called it a renewal. We didn't call it a revival. We were so different. We just figured it was our take on a way of dressing. We didn't think we were copying the original mods to that much of a degree. We had a lot more in common, I would say, with punks and the whole thing there. But it gave us a focus. It gave us a style of dressing. The music was great. And there was always a real shortage of mod girls, which was worrying. So I was well into the punk rock music and stuff, but I just hated the idea of buying a suit and ripping it up. And I'd never had a decent job or anything. I'd always been hopeless at school. And to be a mod, to dress up, you just felt like you were someone. You felt you could be someone. And it was great.
When they embraced the mod movement itself, it was because suddenly they could express themselves as young people and say, look, I'm here, I'm fantastic. I think when you're young, you want to show how cool and how fit and how strong and how beautiful you are.
I've heard that Entwistle was disgusted when he was made to wear mod clothes. I mean, they love the Stones and their sort of bad boy rocker image. I think I heard a programme years and years ago when he was told to buy some mod shoes and they fell apart after three times wearing them, you know.
Just the thing I hated most about the mod stage of our career was that I didn't want to look like my audience. And you ended up having to look like the audience. We did it for so few months, but because we started like that, history will say that we started off as a mod band. In actual fact, we didn't. We started off as a band, just a playing band that wore what bands were at that time.
As with all scenes, mod retreated underground until the Gallagher brothers, Ocean Colour Scene, and a revitalised Paul Weller put mod firmly back in the charts.
We used to go down to Kensington Market and buy big bags of blues, these little blue tablets, which was probably copying the 1960s to the nth degree, because they all used to take blues and Purple Hearts. And that was the one thing we definitely had in common with punk rock. Both of those, punk and the mod thing, were both fueled by amphetamines, I would say. That's why everyone had so much energy.
Well, that might be what pretty surprising, yeah. It was. I don't think there was that much drugs about in the mod revival scene. There was a bit of speed about, but it was mainly a lot of drinking, wasn't it?
It was very alcohol sort of like fueled, and you know, because, you know, I mean, I was only sort of, you know, kind of 16, 17 at the time. I was anyone's for a donut after a couple of vodka and oranges. And I remember walking along the seafront with Vaughan as well, and somebody gave me you know, some sort of blues upper pill, and because I was waiting for sort of something to sort of like happen, and the day sort of like, you know, kind of sort of wore on. Nothing happened at all until I got on the train to go back to London, and then I wouldn't stop talking. It was like
Right.
And it made my willy go small, if I remember.
There you go.
Almost went inwards, actually. It went, you know, drugs. You know, you're only sort of, you know, 16 or 17, so you're probably still quite sort of, you know, kind of frightened, really.
Yeah.
The mod movement is still happening. It allows young people of any class to be stylish. It allows them to be cool.
I had the wildest time for a couple of years, and it gave me a chance to be somebody at that point. When, as a teenager, that's what you want to be. You want your own identity, and it helped me grow over those couple of years into the person I am today, definitely.
You'll always be a mod. You're either a mod for life, I think the saying is. You know, you can become a mod and, you know, follow that way of thinking. It's not just a way of looking or what you ride, what you do, but it's a whole way of life.
17, 18-year-old kids now are, you know, more interested in getting a mortgage than, you know, looking forward to the next Jam album or whatever. You know, which we did. I mean, it used to be like an event, didn't it? It was like, oh,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
But now, I mean, they're more interested in, you know, make sure they've got a decent enough car and a job, and a job and their mortgage. They're old before their time.
I think youth has lost its rebellion in this country. It just seems to be so safe, so material, and so... What's the rebellion against? You know, I can't get a new PlayStation.
That is the whole thing with the mod movement, whether it's what I feel is 1964, whether it's in 1979, or what it may be again in the year 2000 or whatever, if we had another mod revival. It's about doing what you want to do.
I think the mod revival was great, and it was the big thing that never happened almost, you know. It was there and gone so quickly, from being a real underground movement to being this popular thing, and when it became popular, it just disappeared overnight.
I think the time around 1979 was when I look back on it now, it's absolutely fantastic time, very, you know, incredibly enjoyable time, and interestingly, without the weight of expectation, I think, that was on the shoulders of people around the time that punk first came out.
I'm not glad to be this old. I mean, no one ever is, but I'm glad I actually had my musical beginnings at a time that was that fresh.